rolling. I think we should be good. I don't know. It's been a minute. It's been almost a couple of weeks since I recorded one of these, like a week and a half or something like that. I've been busy, bro. And to be totally honest, it's been a mixture of being busy. It's been a mixture of kind of being overwhelmed, a little uninspired. And I mean, in terms of not really knowing what to talk about. And I promised myself when I started doing this that I would not be too hard on myself about trying to force myself into doing this. Because I didn't want it to not be genuine. I do want to be consistent, but there's a fine line to walk when you're talking about being consistent and being not true to yourself, because consistency at the cost of your mental health or at the cost of something much more pressing and much more important, I don't think that's a good idea. And I've been dealing with my kids. I've been home improving. I've been working on myself. I've been taking vitamins, all kind of stuff, man. Supposed to be going to take a gym tour tomorrow, a tour of a gym tomorrow. Trying to get some of this extra sexiness off of me. You feel me? It's too much. It's like, no, but welcome back, man. This is Streams episode 17. I am your host, Red Karan. I like to think of this as the greatest monologue on earth. I'm back, man. I hope I still gonna have you guys' attention or what have you. I think today what I'm going to talk about is a topic that was suggested months ago by my man's Tristan Knight. When I asked for suggestions, I believe I said it in a video, or I might have said it on my Instagram or something. I was saying, if anybody has any ideas for any topics to cover, just let me know. He was the only person to suggest a topic, I think, that I can remember off the top of my head. I've had people talk about things that I talked about and kind of gave me other ideas inadvertently, but he directly hit me up and was like, you know what, you should talk about the oversaturation of everything. And that goes into music, you know, YouTubers, art, whether it be painting, drawing, digital art, cover art that people are doing. It's like everybody's doing everything. There's so many rappers, there's so many singers, there's so many managers, there's so many massage therapists, and everything seems like it's oversaturated. It seems like everybody is in some lane crowding said lane. And I think based on the way that he was bringing the topic to me, it almost sounded like he was a little, I don't want to say frustrated, but almost like kind of like disappointed by that fact. Like there's so many people doing everything. But I kind of feel differently. I have kind of a different take. I'm not really disappointed. It doesn't really disappoint me. It doesn't really make me mad. Not all the time. Sometimes it does. And I'll say this. When it comes to rap, I feel like it's oversaturated because the barrier to entry is so low. It doesn't cost anything to rap. You know, essentially, it costs things to be a professional recording artist in any genre, because you have to studio time, you know, mixing, mastering, equipment if you do it yourself. It costs, right? So it takes a little money. But even still, as opposed to what it used to be in the 90s or the 80s even, or even in the mid-2000s up until maybe 10, 15 years ago, it cost a lot of money to get studio equipment and have it hooked up in your own house. It used to cost a lot of money, you know, until the advancement of technology. Technology made it so that microphones could sound really good and they could be really, really cheap. this microphone that I'm talking into is one of the best microphones I've ever used in terms of, clarity and definition. And this microphone costs $130 or something like that. It rivals the microphone that's behind me in the booth, and that microphone is $1,200. That microphone is better, in a few ways, but it's not better in a whole lot of ways, to be totally honest with you. It's probably better in more scientific ways, like the transistors and the things that make it work. The what do you call it? The digital, the conversion and all of that stuff, and how it does it, and the clarity you can get from that microphone, and probably how loud you can push that microphone versus this one. Plus, it has a little more better low-end representation on that mic and stuff for all of the music nerds out there that cares about that kind of stuff. But the point is, things have gotten way cheaper over the years, bro. I remember my homeboy Calvin, he's like 6 years older than me. He took me first time I ever stepped foot in a Guitar Center was because he just was like, put your shoes on, let's go. I'm like, where are we going? He like, don't worry about it, just come with me. We hopped in his car, we driving, we talking. I don't know where we going, I have no idea. He drives out, we driving for a while. It probably, based on the distance from where we were to where that Guitar Center was, we probably was driving 15, 20 minutes. So we get there and I'm like, oh shit, you bring me to Guitar Center. Never been there, never even seen one. Went in there and I'm walking around, I'm amazed, I'm happy. But one thing that I noticed, especially as a broke teenager, broke like 14-year-old, 13-year-old, is I was like, this stuff is expensive. Like the keyboards that I had been hearing about that like people like Pharrell and Timbaland was using, those keyboards was like $7,000, $8,000. And I'm 13 with like $5 in my pocket. So my point is, it seems like such a far reach from, what I have, where I'm at. And I remember like technology was so, like music equipment was so much more complicated back then. It didn't have all the simplified interfaces that you have now, where it's just a plug and play USB port. It used to be all of these other wires. You had to do all this in and out. You had to do all this wiring and all of this routing to hook up things. It used to be all these big giant 16, 24, 32 track mixers. All of these things that was so complicated and so, of course today, dated. Nowadays, I have a mixing board right here. This thing, it's got 4 wires hooked up to it. It's got what I got, 12 faders on here. You hook some Cat 5s up to it, like some Ethernet cords, and a power cord. It connects to your computer through a USB. No. It doesn't even do that. It doesn't even connect to the computer through USB. It connects to the computer through Ethernet, and then Pro Tools communicates with this board easily, instantly. Everything that's going on in Pro Tools, it sends it to these boards through an Ethernet cable. 20 years ago, 25 years ago, you could not do that. You had to wire every single in and out in your interface or whatever, in your mixer, into this thing separately through a snake or whatever. I'm saying all this stuff to say that music has been simplified, music equipment, the science and technology of music has been simplified so much that the barrier to entry is so low now. It doesn't take much, especially for rap, because for rappers, that's for production. Like, there's a lot of producers. Everybody make beats now because it's easy and it's accessible. But for rap, you literally, all you need is a voice, a pen, some paper maybe. If you don't write in your brain, you could just rap. You could walk around and never record a song and still be known, because guess what? There's a lot of famous people now that did exactly that. Some of the rappers that we call the best rappers in the world, they never recorded a song before they got notoriety or somebody's attention. Big L, LL Cool J, Cannabis, Jay-Z, DMX, Tupac. They were running around they were running around ciphering or just rapping or writing and being known just for their voice, right? So hip hop has always been this sort of wild child of an art form where it kind of defied everything that it was surrounded by. Because imagine having to be Luther Vandross in the 70s and the 80s and what he had to go through to get where he got. He had to learn how to play an instrument. Then he had to get access to the instrument. Then he was a background singer for many years, having to work for someone else just to get the opportunity to sing. Singing in those more sophisticated art forms of music, the barrier of entry the cost of entry is a lot higher because it's more involved. It's a little more complicated. But with rap, the reason why it's such a blessing to us as a people is because it's like folk music. It's like I don't know. It's like spiritual, like African music, because it's something that you do with your body, with your voice, and it doesn't cost anybody anything. And that became his gift and its curse. Phone call, 1 second. Hey.
Hey.
What?
What?
Why you got an attitude?
Because.
Go ahead, say it.
Because I miss you.
You miss me?
Yeah.
Okay, that was nice. I thought you was going somewhere else, because guess what?
What?
You on camera. So if this is on, if y'all thought you was about to be mean to me during this recording, we're not gonna cut it out.
You always trying to tell people I'm mean to you. This is living proof. Turn this on me real quick.
I'm recording.
Let me say something to you.
I'm recording my episode and then I'm headed to you.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
But yeah, rap music is like this thing where you practice it spiritually almost. So it almost makes rap music a gift and a curse, because it allows it so that anyone can do it, but the curse is that anyone can do it. That means terrible rappers, great rappers, white rappers, brown rappers, whatever. You know what I'm saying? From wherever you are in the world, you can do this art. Now, the thing that a lot of founding fathers of this art form have been preaching for a long time is we need codes, and we need people to be checked, and we need people to be verified that they are actually a part of this culture and this art form, and that they deserve to be here. And I agree with that to an extent, but on the other hand, I also understand that creativity and art cannot be gatekept by any one man or any few men, because guess what? Creativity, when it happens or before it happens, is all by way of God or the universe or whatever, nature or whatever you believe in. Creativity does not belong to anyone. It belongs to all of us. And we see it in many forms of all sorts of things, where you will see a white kid who can sing with so much soul and passion, even though he doesn't come from where usually those types of singers come from. Like Justin Bieber. You might not like him. He might be a douchebag. He might be annoying. He might be corny to you. But you can't deny the fact that that little white boy can sing his ass off. And that's not something that you can pretend to do. Or you look at Adele. Adele can sing like a motherfucker, bro. She don't come from Alabama. She don't even come from America. Yebba can sing. Jasmine Sullivan can sing, but she come from where we come from. And a lot of times that's where that comes from. Look at Amy Winehouse. That spirit, that soul that's in her, it's genuine, it's real. It's not pretend. That's something that belongs to her. It belongs to us. She just happened to be gifted with it. You know, even though she doesn't come from the environments that you typically find that in. Because Amy Winehouse, Adele, they sing like motherfuckers that came up in the church. You know, and that's just because it's God-given talent. It can't be attributed to anything but God, to me. That's just my opinion, right? So when we start talking about the oversaturation of things, it's like art is free-flowing. It's a freelancing, free-form art form. Anyone, all art really is, but some art is just harder to get into. Like, for instance, we can go to Michael's or Frank's or whatever, buy some canvases, get some paint, whatever kind of paint you want, get some paintbrushes, and sit down and start painting. But guess what? You'll find out real quick when you start doing that everybody can't be Basquiat. Everybody can't be Rembrandt. Everybody can't be Da Vinci or whatever. You know, you can't replicate something like that because it is God-given. It's not up to you. So I think it should be where all art forms are open source and you can do whatever. Anybody can try it. I believe there's a quote. I want to say it was Beethoven or something. Let me see if I can find it. Man, I can't find it. But, you know, it was something, I'll paraphrase. I believe my piano teacher is who relayed this quote to us in 2007 when I was in college. This was 16 years ago. So I definitely don't remember word for word what he was telling us or who said it or none of that. But essentially the quote went something like, no art form can really be, like, you can't find the masters of any art form until you allow everyone to try it. The essence behind this quote, it means, how can you know if Beethoven or Mozart or Tchaikovsky or all of these people are actually master pianists unless you let everyone try it? If there was a closed society of pianists where only 15 people in the entire world were allowed to touch pianos and play pianos, how could you know if they were chosen greats or if they were just the only ones doing it? You can't know the skill floor unless you start letting everybody do it. You know how you know Beethoven and Mozart are amazing at what they do? Is because if you sit me in front of that same piano with 88 keys or however many keys is on that piano, I won't know what the fuck to do. Furthermore, even if you gave me years, decades of training, I don't know, I've never had decades of piano training, but I'm saying in theory, you can give someone decades of training at something and they still won't be as good as someone who just picked it up and was great at it. You know why? Because it's God-given. It's not something that has anything to do with training. That's the point. I heard Prince, the artist, taught himself how to play every instrument he knows how to play. That's what I heard. He just picked things up, learned how to use them, and then he became Prince. Do you think everyone can do that? No, everyone can't do that. Only he can do that. The way that he did it, only him. That's it. That's why I think it's a good thing there is, a million songs being uploaded to Spotify a day. You know why? Because it almost makes the good stuff even better. It makes us appreciate the artists that we look up to. It even makes us appreciate the artists that we live next to. The ones that are really good, the ones that I work with that no one knows about, it makes their music stand out even more. The fact that there are other artists that will come in the same studio behind them and be absolutely terrible because they have the same microphone, the same engineer, the same studio, the same Pro Tools, the same room, the same air, the same bottle of water that I give him. It's all the same, except one of them walked out of here with a masterpiece and the other one walked out of here with a song where you go, what is that? So it is a little disheartening that there's so much noise, there's so much clutter to cut through in these industries, but that's the way it's supposed to be. It's the intent behind art being free for all. You know, so to Tristan, you know, all of these artists being as bad as they are makes your music more valuable. It makes my music more valuable. A lot of artists are really bad. A lot of artists are good in their own right, but they're doing something totally different than you and I too. You know? So that's not even really our problem. The oversaturation of things, and there's a lot of bad things that come with it, because then you get a lot of politics and, you know, the little subtle nuances when it comes to these industries. But I'm just talking about purely the expressions, the art. You are at an advantage being up against people who are not good. They can't hold a candle to you, so it almost makes your music more valuable, bro. Me and my sons went to, I think we were in Joann Fabrics or something. And I think they had some canvases and stuff there. I think it was either Joann Fabrics or Michael's or something. I don't remember. But we were in one of these stores where there was just some canvases. It was like, oh, we should get some of these. Bought some canvases. I bought my kids some, some acrylic paint. I bought them 2 packs of paintbrushes, one of which is right here. And we went in the room in the booth behind me, put down some plastic on the floor, and we painted our canvases individually. It was fun. It was a good form of expression. But like I said earlier in this video, it taught me very quick the value of someone like Basquiat. Because Basquiat is almost like he's an abstract painter. His paintings make no sense from first glance. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any logical sense or any logistical sense. It's like random figures and shapes and colors on a canvas. It's not like there's a whole lot of clarity. Like my favorite type of art is what they call old masters, which is why my album covers have all looked the way that they looked. I like oil paintings and when people paint impressionist art where it's like some dramatic pose or be of religious influence. I love the drama and the emotion that's in those pieces. It's my favorite thing. I've been to museums all around the world looking at that kind of stuff. And it takes me to a headspace, a creative space that nothing else can, right? Basquiat paints nothing like that. So by all tradition, he's doing it the incorrect way, right? So you have to imagine the artists that paint traditionally, the old master's way, looking at his type of art, even though there was a lot of abstract art before him and during him, but I'm using him as the poster child right now because I don't really know anyone else to use anyway. You could talk about Andy Warhol, right? His paintings were weird. Banksy and all of these types of people that paint in weird ways. But you think about that. They're like, man, think about the way older people of any art form looked at the younger entrants saying, why are they doing it this way? It's too many of these artists. They popping up and, it's like they're growing like wildflowers. All they do is pop up and they paint a bunch of weird stuff on a canvas. That's not art. That's not art. That's the same way rap is. It's a bunch of old heads that came before the young niggas talking about all these young niggas, it being too many of them, their art being weird, or their art being non-traditional. It's too oversaturated. And I understand the sentiment. I really do. But that's not up to you. You know, if you are secure in your form of expression and you are secure in your brand of art, then you don't change up and don't worry about what the next man is doing. You just do what you're doing and you let them overcrowd the market. It makes it harder to rise to the top when there's so much noise. Yes, there are negatives. There's politics involved. There's dick sucking involved. Gatekeeping, sauce stealing, all of that stuff is involved. And ironically enough, gatekeepers and sauce stealers is going to be another episode that I do. Maybe I'll do that one next. But oversaturation is almost a blessing for those of us that are really genuine and made of this and tried and true. But you also can't be mad at the wonderkins, the people that come into an art form and they rise to the top, because it wouldn't happen if it didn't have some value. Because we've all seen artists be promoted and them labels dump money behind artists, and they might get a hit. They might catch a hit because that's just how the algorithms or how it works, you know. It might appear to be a hit. But guess what? Even things that appear to be hits, time will tell it all. Because Nas, KD1, KD2, Magic, and KD3 were not hits. They didn't go to top 40 as far as I know. They didn't sell 1 billion records. It was just good music. 4 albums worth of good music. That's it. They weren't commercial successes. They were not, what you call it, fan favorites. They were good. There was a lot of people talking about them. There's a lot of people doing TikToks and recording dances to the shit and whatever. I don't know, whatever. But commercially, by all metrics, it was not considered a hit or a success, right? But I guarantee you, those 4 Nas albums are more substantial than the things that were considered hits at the same time period, in the same time period. Because yes, those songs might have gotten 200 million views on YouTube. They might have gotten some radio spins. Who knows? Who's listening to the radio? They might have sold well or they might have streamed well, right? But bubblegum is bubblegum. You chew a piece of bubblegum, it's real good right now. But guess what you're going to do with that piece of bubblegum? You're going to spit it out. You're not even going to swallow it. It isn't sustenance. It's a good flavor for the moment. But soup, steak, pot roast and potatoes and carrots, soul food is something you eat. It makes you feel good. It gives you sustenance. It fills you. It makes you feel happy. It'll make you go to sleep. And all that shit is going to be there when it's there. It ain't going nowhere. Soul food is not going nowhere. We've been eating this shit. We've been eating soup and porridge and these things for hundreds of years. Those are the basics. Those are the things. Those are the foundation. Those are the building blocks to everything that is. Soul food don't go nowhere. You should know that. So you make soul food. Make your soul food. And let these niggas keep peddling bubblegum. Because if anything, since Kendrick disappeared, I feel like the game changed immediately after. Streaming has ramped up to the nth degree. Streaming has become the main thing. Kendrick was around, Kendrick dropped in 2012, right? With his first album, his first studio industry album, major label album, and he was still selling hard copies up until, he was still selling hard copies of his album. That was just, 6 years ago or whatever, 2017 or whatever that was. And After he disappeared, it's like, I'm not saying he's the reason. I'm just saying, I'm just using it as a time marker. It's like after that, physical sales don't really exist anymore. It's not a thing, right? And I look at Kendrick music, although he's one of the biggest artists in the world, his music is soul food though. When I go back and listen to those albums, it's more relevant to me today than it was to me when it came out. And I understood it. I was a grown man. But now I got kids and I'm more of a grown man. I'm in my 30s and I've dealt with some of the things that he talks about. That's soul food. Those albums are there and they're almost capsules of the time. They're relevant then, now, and in the future. But in the meantime, all of these little whoever's or the, I don't want to say nobody's name and be disrespectful, but there's a lot of female rapper. They just talking about pussy and robbing niggas and, date raping niggas and shit like that. Or all these niggas talking about all this bullshit about fucking hoes and fucking other niggas' hoes and selling drugs and shooting their own people and shit like that. It might be hot right now. Might get a lot of plays. The YouTube video might get 100 million views. Don't nobody give a fuck. A great example, and I don't mean no disrespect, but DaBaby, right? DaBaby, I like DaBaby. I think he's great musically, and I actually kind of like the nigga as a person based on the things that I know. He's not perfect. He's flawed. He said some shit he shouldn't have said. Whatever. He was cranking out hits. Everything he dropped, it was nothing he could do wrong until it was. But it was nothing he could do wrong for a while. It was like everything he dropped, it got attention. Even though it all sounded the same, no one cared because they just liked his vibe. They liked his energy. They liked what he brought to the table. He made some people mad, whatever. I don't know. I don't know if it was a conspiracy or whatever, but then he fell off of a cliff. But I think that's because his music wasn't very substantial anyway. It didn't have much substance. Some of it, I'm not saying all of it. I'm just saying the songs that we heard on the radio, they were just fun radio songs. But guess what, though? J. Cole has a whole catalog full of things that you almost can't, it don't get old. It doesn't get old. Lil Wayne, catalog full of music that just kind of don't get old. Some of it does, because Lil Wayne got some bubble gum, but Lil Wayne got a lot of substance too. And oversaturation is just that. It's temporary. It's a bunch of people coming in because the floodgates are open. But the beauty in that is that a bunch of people are going to show up and find out that they not built. And it's going to happen for generations and generations. But the cream always rises to the top, my nigga. That's the fucking point. There's a lot of people that try to sound like Lil Baby, but they can't do it. They not him. There's a lot of people that try to sound like Wayne, but you're not him. You didn't go through what he went through to be that. So you can oversaturate and try to imitate and duplicate these artists all you want to, and you can get a hit off. You can get some notoriety, some attention. You can get some good paying shows. And then when you gone, ain't nobody gonna miss you, my nigga. That's the way that it works. There's a million niggas making beats. Who cares? It's a lot of niggas that pop up and they'll get a placement. Your beat get placed on Freddie Gibbs' album. Your beat get placed on, I don't know, Lil TJ album or whoever these little niggas is called. I don't know. I don't care. You might get a beat placed, but you don't have no story. No one cares about you. You're just a beat maker out of millions of beat makers, bro. No one cares. The substance comes from you making connections with people, building relationships, building your own things. If you make beats and then you make a compilation album and you build your own shit, look at Metro Boomin. Metro Boomin was just a name that was being tagged on beats in the intro to outro. And then he became something when he began standing in his own image. He could have just been a face in the crowd if he had let that happen. But Metro carved himself out a lane, and now that's his shit. He got relationships with artists, which almost makes him infallible. It almost makes it hard for him to fall off because he got a home. He has relationships. He has established relationships. So when those other artists, the relationships that he's built, when it's time for them to work, you don't think they're going to think of Metro? You build relationships. Some people don't get the opportunity to build relationships. But if you do get the opportunity to build relationships and you don't, that's why it won't work for you. I try to build relationships as an engineer because I don't want people to just come. I build relationships with the people that I want to build relationships with. I don't want people to just come in here, make a song, and then leave. I talk to people, ask them how they're doing. They tell me about their family, things that they've been through. We talk about philosophy. We talk about happenings in the world and how we feel about them. We trade ideas. We trade information. I display myself and represent myself as a human being, not just an employee of the studio. They know me and they know things about me. They know the way that I think about things. So it humanizes me in their eyes and vice versa. There's plenty of artists that I've worked with. I know for a fact because I'll look through my client list and I'm like, who is this? I don't even remember who this person is. Why? Because they didn't make an impression on me. They're just a face in the crowd. But you make impressions on people. Be yourself. Brand yourself. Be proud of your brand. And you will rise above the crowd, the noise. There's an oversaturation of engineers. I mean, but see, the thing that kind of protects me is that being an engineer, you can't just do that in your room by yourself. You need the equipment. You need music to work on. You need experience. You need some form of training. You know, this is one of those specialized fields. I'm not saying it's the most complicated thing in the world, but I am saying the barrier to entry is a little higher than it is for rap, which is why artists find value in paying me versus, you know, they'll pay me before they pay their producer, their beat maker. They'll pay me first. You know why? Because this is not something that you can skip over. You can't skip over this process. Something's going to have to get recorded. If you want to make a song, you're going to have to record it. You know, you can record it at home, but then guess what? They try to go and do that, and a lot of them find out when you go and record it at home, it don't sound the way it sounded here, do it. That's why I don't be worried. You know, it is what it is. You ain't got to come to me, you know, but I'm just saying I'm protected in the sense that the barrier to entry, the cost of entry to do this it's a little higher. You can't just do this in your bedroom. You can try it like I did. That's where I learned it at in my bedroom. But it took thousands of dollars of investing into things and building relationships to have artists to work with too. You know, this is not a spectator sport. You have to be a part of something to be an engineer. You have to have a community behind you or up under you holding you up. You have to have relationships. You have to have artists, clientele. You have to have a reputation. This shit take work. But to be a rapper, you literally could just do that driving it to work. You could just start rapping. You don't even have to tell nobody. You know, that's the beauty in a form of expression like that. It doesn't require anyone. So there are advantages and there are disadvantages. You know? I don't know, man. think this is a pretty interesting topic. Don't be afraid of the oversaturation, man. They supposed to be here. Because it being oversaturated means it makes me more valuable at the end of the day if I'm good at what I do. Now, if you're not good at what you do and you're afraid of being overshadowed or outnumbered, that's an insecurity you got to deal with on your own. You know what I'm saying? But it is an insecurity. But I'm out, man. This is Red Quran hosting Streams episode 17, man. Appreciate it if you made it this far. If you made it this far, do me a favor and in the comments, leave the word brand, BRAND. Just put that in the comments just to let me know who made it to this point. I appreciate you as always. Sorry for the hiatus, but I value myself more than I value this show. That's just a fact. But see y'all next week, hopefully. I ain't going nowhere. I'm not going to stop the show, but if I need to take some weeks off, I'm going to do it. I promise. My kids need me. But yeah, appreciate you. Please hit the like and the subscribe and the share button, especially the share button. Send this to people. Post it on your gram. Clip it up. Screen record this shit and put it in your story. I don't care. Do me that solid. I'll let y'all niggas next week, man. I'm out.